Welcome to the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, Sirius XM 167.
Oh, there it is. Good evening, afternoon. Hi, everybody. Oh, yeah. Lots of rain coming in this area. Everyone be safe this weekend. I know we're speaking of the world, though. I shouldn't be so Toronto, Southern Ontario specific. Big show today. Andy Kindler, funny guy. He's doing some stuff for JFL Northwest. He's always doing stuff. He loves Donald Trump. Can't wait to talk to him about how much he loves Donald Trump. Andy Kindler, of course, famed comedian. Ari Goldkind, he'll be here at about 4:30ish. I'm Benji Nasberg, really inspirational young dude. Has got this great business called Fast Fired Pizza, Carbone Pizza. And my goodness, this pizza is unreal. And what's unreal about it is the story behind it, how it's expanding. And that's what I want to talk to you about, on how you can go out and get something done for yourself. Go and make it happen. Don't just kind of cower to the powers that be. Don't just give them all of your manpower or woman power or person power. No, go and do it yourself. And then, why not? Let's play a little bit of Michael Johns. He's, he would be Andy Kindler's favorite guy. He's one of the founders of the National Tea Party movement. We'll be back in a moment with Andy Kindler. Thank you again for being here on the end of a week. It's gone, the first full week back for the new year. Let's all take you into the weekends, do it together with big open arms and big smiles, and hopefully a drink in hand safely, of course, when you get home.
We'll be right back with the Todd Shapiro Show.
Hey, everybody. Hovedink.com, two-way humidity control packs to keep your cannabis fresh. Thanks to them. Yeah, thanks to them. Thanks to Lake Wilcox Brewing. Thanks to them as well. Thanks to drafters.com. I got daily fantasy sports, free games. Thanks to them. Thanks to you. Thank you, you. Thank you, you. We appreciate it. And Permescent.com, you can make love longer. Hey, don't get high and drive. That's from Halo Labs. And I got some exciting announcements to come next week, some new partners. All right, Bilal, I think he's trying to line up Andy Kindler. Any luck? Any luck, Bilal?
I'm just going to, he's supposed to call us, but I'll directly ring him right now.
Yeah, that's the problem with all these guests. They just don't call on time. So frustrating. I mean, like, I like Andy Kindler, and I'm appreciative of the JFL folk. They get us guests and everything, comedians, but like, oh, good, you got him. I was gonna say, like, you know, if I was Jimmy Fallon, he wouldn't be late.
Late?
Are you late? Are you on time?
I was told to call at 1:05.
Oh, you're right on time. Hi, Andy Kindler.
What? I'm OCD. You're going to get me. I won't be able to think about anything else now. That I thought I was on time, but if I was late, I apologize to the.
No, you nailed it.
I was told 1:05, and I don't mess around. I don't call it 1:04.
You're right on, dude. You're right. So you're in. Where are you right now? Are you in LA? Where are you?
I'm in my home in Los Angeles. I'm in an underground bunker because I have my new bucket list. The top of my bucket list is to survive another week in America, and then I'm working on my Go Pack. Is that what they call it? Your Go Pack.
Sure.
So I have edibles. I have every form of edible in the Go Pack.
That's nice. Are you a big edible consumer?
I do everything that's involved. I hope I'm allowed to say marijuana on the air.
Oh yeah, we're all for cannabis in Canada. You know that. We have edibles on every shop in this country now.
I try to increase my bookings. I often book very close to a shop.
Very smart.
Although you don't have the edible situation. I mean, now
we
it's
do. They
loosening
just
up. I know you do, but we're better. No, I'm kidding. We're worse.
No,
Way
California's
worse.
done it well. There's a nice rollout in California. Our edibles are they didn't give you enough. They gave you it's a tiny percentage. Like you got to eat. You get fat to get high. That's the problem. You get diabetes because they didn't allow. The government did allow a big content, of marijuana content. So you get diabetes. That's the only problem.
Well, I'm on the fence for type 2 diabetes, and I'm hoping that the amount of edibles I've been consuming will push me over because I'm doing it right. Although a lot of times I'll take things called troches, and the kids today, not the kids over 21, they say, what's a troche? And it's a concentrated marijuana thing without the calories.
Huh? A troche? I never heard of that before.
Yeah, it's if you ever had like a thing like a compound that was made from a pharmacy for some kind of a thing, they call it a troche. Why I'm repeating it, I don't know. It's like repeating the instructions on my prescriptions. TID.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's nice. You still were learning. Do you ever get in the psychedelics, Andy Kindler? You ever do mushrooms?
I have a history of it, is what I like to tell. And when I talk to the insurance people, I say the history is fake. But in real life, my life insurance people don't need to know that I. And of course, now I'm telling them. No, yes, I was a big believer in psychedelics and all that kind of thing. But nothing. I never wanted to do heroin only because I thought I might like it really a lot. So,
dude, people mess up their lives. I'm like, how good is that? When you see, you'll hear stories like that guy was a CEO of a big company and then he started partying too much when he had his big exit. Now he's a heroin addict on the street. I'm like, man, that stuff's got to be amazing.
You never hear a positive heroin story. You know what I mean?
Very few.
I took heroin. My business increased. I felt better internally. I slept more. No, but I don't currently, unless it's available, take psychedelics.
Okay.
As you get I have taken it, but you really have to be careful as you get older. And I'm not saying I'm old. I'm 30-ish on the phone. But I used to in college, which I don't remember much of. In fact, the last day of college, I'll never forget this. I was walking around. I was on some kind of LSD, and it was all from Owsley. If people remember Owsley, he made LSD for the dead. All right, so I was on LSD, and all these students were graduating in my college, and they were going, "We did it! We finished! We did it! Congratulations!" And I was high enough to say, "What are we so excited about leaving college for? Why would you want to leave this? Where were you rushing to get to?" And that was something I learned on psychedelics. That was a true intimation of what the world was going to be like. It was no picnic once I got out of college.
Yeah, the world's a tough place. Psychedelics do make it better. I'm a big believer, big advocate of it lately. Even getting into the industry, there is a legal industry that will eventually come, and I'm getting behind decriminalization movements. And the reason being, it's all that stuff you're talking about. Isn't it nice in this world of ego? There's so much ego. Like, you go on Twitter, it's people's ego. That's all it is. We have so much ego. This is an egoless experience for those. And if you do it in small dosages through education and information, and of course I can't condone this stuff or ever make health claims, but all I'm saying is
I don't recommend anybody doing unless they know what they're doing. And I don't even know what they're doing like I have a degree, but like they're doing it a lot. They used to do it a lot, and they're still doing it a lot for psychological. LSD can help you look at traumatic things, but they do it under circumstances where someone's watching you, and that did not happen in college.
No, yeah. Listen, we had a scary experience once back in high school. No, probably college, actually, where one of my buddies were luckily, we were at a family cottage. We're fortunate to have a cottage there, Andy. You got boats and canoes. And this guy on mushrooms at 2 a.m, my buddy, Brian, he goes out in the canoe at 2 a.m. and a dark. And that killed it for everybody else. We were so nervous. You can't. And then you're in a bat. That when those things, if you don't have guidance, it can be very scary.
Well, especially if you're hallucinating that you're in a canoe, that's one thing. But actually, in a canoe, if I had ever to do anything dangerous, for example, had I been a pilot when I was taking psychedelics, I would not be celebrated like Doc Ellis was when he pitched a no-hitter for the Pittsburgh Pirates on LSD. I would not. It would not be good. I would be endangering others. But I think all these things are like. Also, they're doing studies again with ecstasy, which was I experimented with many things, but also I was in high school or more like college. They sold stuff under the names of other stuff that wasn't that stuff. So I took PCP by accident once, and I did not enjoy it.
Oh no! What could you remember the reaction? Do you remember what happened? I don't even know what PCP is, to be honest.
I don't. First of all, they sold it. Because I always make fun of people. Telling me now. They're like, I tell somebody, you want to. They're worried about how much Red Bull I'm drinking. How much is that of you? How much Red Bull have you drinking? I said, are you kidding me? In 1977, I went to a Grateful Dead concert with you, and some guy came up to us with pills in his hand, and he said, take 3. They're weak. We didn't even know what they were. All we knew was 2 wouldn't be sufficient. And now you're worried how many Red Bulls?
Yeah, I know. I'll be okay. You're like, don't worry, I'll be okay.
And I'm glad I'm not that age, because I could have died. I mean, they sold it as THC. Well, there's THC now that's in pop, but nobody sells THC pills unless it's Marinol, which is actually the pot without the THC. So I don't know why I thought it was. I mean, we were all excited. Hey, THC is coming around, and it was PCP, and I had one horrible experience where it was the middle of winter. I was draped over an air conditioner, and a couple of my cousins were at the same party I was at. How's that sound?
You don't want to be messed up with cousins around.
Andy. Hi, Andy. I'm the oldest cousin. I'm the role model.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, Andy.
Okay.
What's the matter? Are you hot? Yeah, yes.
I imagine
I can withstand death and probably anything is because I've almost died many times on psychedelics.
Have you actually almost died? We had this interesting. I say weird. Weird's a mean thing to say. I'm trying to get rid of words like weird and normal. Because they're words that don't really make sense in this. You know what I mean? There's no such thing. You're just individuals. So I met an eclectic lady on the program yesterday, and she wrote a book about her 5 near-death experiences. And then it got a little too religious for me, to be honest, and how she saw God and stuff. But Andy Kindler, have you had those moments where like literally you thought you were going to die, and maybe you saw a different light or something weird happen to you?
Well, no, and also the thing is. I am when I met the thing about the PCP that was I would never want to repeat that again, which is why George Soros would put out outside of bars, he would put out testing stations so people they knew they were doing MDMA, because the thing there was there was no THC, and the last thing I would do electively would be PCP. Just was a complete mistake, but. I have not had those experiences. I'm kind of fascinated by near-death experiences because I do think, a lot of people, no one's going to know till we die what happens. But some of them are so remarkable that the only thing I had similar to that was when I was a little kid, I had a fever, and I must have been I remember being 3.5 years old, and I was in bed, and I was thought I was going to die. I was 105. My mother was, typically, my mother was having a party in the lower part of the house. Not like she was at a party. She was with 7 people in the lower part of the house. Mommy, and then she did not hear me. So this is an absolutely true story. At one point I said, I'm going to die. And then as soon as I accepted that I was going to die, I felt incredibly peaceful and warm and not scared. So no, I didn't see anything, and I didn't die. But it's always comforted me that your mind does adjust to anything. That's my big fear about death is that I'll be dying going, oh, I don't want to. But I think your mind...
Dude, it's really interesting, Andy, and hey, that's the most genuine I've ever felt connected to you, by the way. No, it's very nice. It's very nice to hear you talk like that. But this lady said honestly the exact same thing, literally verbatim of what you just said. Yesterday, in all experiences, that's exactly what she felt. Was this comfort, this peace, and then she sort of brought it into deeper. We talked about the plane the shooting down of the plane and all this kind of stuff. And she said she takes comfort in knowing that because she almost went down in a plane. Well, a plane did go down, and she survived in a small airplane. And she talks about how for those who are mourning, I hope that they would understand that I would assume there's probably a lot of peace that people had accepted as they might not have time to even think about it though.
Yeah, but there's so many. It's like everything that you always have to be. You always have to be skeptical. When people write. It's like I don't like the mediums field. Like, oh, does anybody here have a? I'm sensing someone had a grandfather. Oh, you did. You had a grandfather. Oh, how could I have nailed that?
Unbelievable.
I've seen that there's some people here who've come. Is there anyone who's come here to find answers to questions about loved ones who have passed? Oh, you did. Oh, what are the odds? What are the odds?
Well, you've worn pink, haven't you? You used to wear pink. As when you're right. Younger, you wore pink.
Me? How could he have known? I went in skeptical, and he switched me around. But there's been enough cases. There's a woman. I think I heard this on This American Life. There's a woman who she had a stroke, and I think she was a neurologist or a she was something in that field. So she described losing one side of her brain, and the side of your brain that is able to organize thoughts, and all she was in total rapture, joy for actually many months. And she regretted when she had to go back into her brain. But they describe things like this, and there's also people, there's so many near-death experiences where people were able to discuss what was going on in the room where they were, or in another room, or in the waiting room. But who knows? I mean, I don't know. Like, this philosopher I just listened to said something I really thought was interesting. He goes, "It's just as reasonable to say nothing happens after. It's just as crazy to say nothing happens after death, and I'm sure of it, than to say something happens after death, and I'm sure of it. Otherwise, nobody knows." I mean, Rory Scovel said that on stage once. He goes, "Nobody knows what happens after you die. Nobody does." So when Ricky Gervais says nothing happens, he doesn't know. And that's not based on science. Or if someone says they do know, maybe they have a reason to think that, but, nobody knows.
No, the only one who could know is if they died and then came back. But that doesn't happen.
Well,
but I mean, really die. Really die. You know what I mean? Like, die. Yeah,
exactly. No, it has never happened, and it probably won't. Well, here's the thing. But this one philosopher was saying that as humans, we sense so little of what there is out in the universe.
Yep.
Whether it's infrared or all these spectrums or senses. So who knows? We're little. I know I'm brilliant. And all-knowing.
You're okay. I mean, no, but listen, I think deep, and part of me wants to say when you're dead, you're dead, and the other part of me wants to go, there's spirits, there's beings, there's things. You're right. There's particles. Like, are we the universe? Like, do our spirits live on? It's sort of a very confusing. We need to be on psychedelics to really have a great conversation about this, Andy.
Well, I am. And I thought you were going to be.
Well,
I just want to say
I might have residual value from last night. Do you go on stage? Do you get high when you go on stage?
I have occasionally. Oh yes, I will. I don't. If I have a gig that means anything, unless if it's like I'm hosting a show and I have to be organized, I don't get high unless it's like in Vancouver and there's a comedy festival,
which you're doing. Which you might be high on February 20th.
I can't. I mean, it certainly doesn't sound professional to MC a show high, and I am required, once again, like someone operating a rocket ship or an air traffic controller. I need to be on my game while I'm hosting the show, or what I'm saying, lives could be lost.
Yeah, I mean,
no, I don't prefer. I would say, do you? As people ask themselves questions, do you prefer it, Andy? No, I think I don't prefer to be high on stage because even though I've enjoyed it, but I have severe ADHD and OCD, and the ADHD just means my mind goes blank every 7 seconds. So I've never on stage said to myself, I wish my mind could go blank more.
Yeah, I mean, you're such a seasoned pro at this for such a long time now, doing stand-up. And by the way, that is Vancouver on February 20th at the Yuck Yucks. And hang on,
I'm hosting the Alt Show at the Yuck Yucks as part of JFL Northwest.
Yeah, JFLNorthwest.com for all your information. It's the 20th, 21st, 22nd. And yes, the Alt Show with Andy Kindler. Yuck Yucks.
I'm not lying. I can verify that I'm not lying.
Wait, well, I mean, if you don't die first, you'll be there. Let's be, you know what I mean? Like,
I could die, but you know what? I know now that that it's nice when you die from that one experience I had when I was 3.
You'll be fine. I mean, we'll miss you at the show. I mean, that's the only thing you won't take peace in, is that knowing that people are missing out on the great Andy Kindler, the incredible performances.
Because of the highness, right?
Yeah. When you go on stage, so back to that blanking out. As a seasoned pro, do you still have moments where you're like, oh man, what the hell was I talking? You kind of lose.
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that has plagued me my entire life. That's the OCD part of it. I started out comedy, and I can remember, if I had your phone number from 40 years ago, I could remember it. I can remember the weirdest things in the world, but my mind goes blank every 7 to 10 seconds, and when there's anxiety involved, it could be worse. So I was on Letterman once, and I'm not just name dropping, but kind of I am. But then I had the name of the bit in my head, which was Michelangelo. I knew the order of the bits, but I couldn't figure out what the joke about Michelangelo was. And I thought that I was going to die. And one of the writers on the show noticed it. Nobody else noticed it, but it seemed like, so it's like one of these ongoing fears. And then also I started comedy in the 80s, and then there was this whole alternative movement, and we used to use notes on stage all the time. So I would rather have not only notes on the stage, but a teleprompter and someone with cue cards and everything. That's what I like, but that's what I struggle with all the time.
Unreal. I mean, that's a surprise you're still getting hired.
Well, that's true. Does it bother you? I mean, I always ask people, but it's the wrong thing to do, ask people, because the answer has to come from myself, so it's not coming. But I ask people, does it bother you when a comic looks at notes? And most people say no, but some people say yes.
I kind of like it, actually. What I like, and listen, it's not like I'm a comedy professional, but
you've seen many comedians.
Yeah. And some of my favorites, and I mean, this is what a lot of true sort of comedy fans would understand, but some who just go to the main shows maybe don't. Is I love when comics work out their routines and kind of have the notes and they put it on the stool. It's 12:30 at the Comedy Store. It's like a late act, and you see the brilliance coming in that, and you see when jokes bomb, and you see when jokes hit, and you see the natural reaction going to a real comic, whether it's you or Chappelle.
Right.
When it hits them, go, I'm going to run with this one. That to me is awesome, and that's why I don't mind notes on stage, because that's what I think you're doing sometimes, working out the act.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, like you said, because it's really kind of the old. I mean, it's like the old show business. For example, one of the funniest bits of all time is when on SCTV, when Bobby Bittman came out, and he brought on the Sammy Maudlin show, and he brought his younger brother Skip Bittman, and he comes out on stage, and he with a reel-to-reel tape recorder, and he tapes his TV set with a reel-to-reel. So I mean, it's just there are certain things that I probably would not. I have them in a teleprompter, but in general, my act's not memorized. And it wasn't supposed to, and the only thing you could argue with is, hey, does that mean it's a recent joke if it's on that card? That's no good. Yeah, so it's you really can't argue with it, but for some reason I have a complex about it. So I leave the cards in my back pocket, and sometimes I don't like to have the cards out, because then I start to think I'm going to just start staring at the cards. It's an OCD obsession combined with an ADHD brain.
Yeah, and maybe I don't know. Maybe your retention isn't as good as others too, in terms of just I look at some comics, and when you see literally per breath, per walk, the same set, 3 weeks later, if you happen to see the same set, it's actually unreal how they're really doing a play up there. And to me, sometimes when you see that, it doesn't feel as genuine after. Granted, you're still laughing and having fun, so it's okay. But some comics are just, their retention is unreal.
Right. Yeah, well, what you're saying, though, is exactly why I got into the trouble I got into, which is not trouble. It's not real trouble, like having a real job. But I never built my act. I used to joke, that I never figured out a way to transition from jokes. My best segue was, speaking of humor, So it's I never organized my routine, my jokes, and they aren't that long normally. So there's never a chance to build, and I mean, I can sometimes build an act based on seasonal material or whatever, but it's hard. And some people just do their act more linearly, but it does bother me. I mean, I think it bothers anybody if you see a comic, like if I go back to the same club a year later, I have to have new material, or else, or a lot of new material.
Yeah, it drives me nuts when you see the
noticed.
same material on comics over a certain amount of time. And by the way, it also you have a great deal of respect for those who put out so many different specials now and so many different acts. It's like, my goodness, these people are just really effing funny. Like, they can turn anything into funny. Before we go, Andy, and we got about 5-7 minutes here, I love these chats with you. I always I like to do a 5-7 minute little conversation with you politically, because you make me laugh
whatever
on
you
Twitter.
Want. My mind is an open book.
But you know me, I'm a little more, I think, conservative leaning than most. And it's not to say that, like, I'm actually somewhere in the middle. I just want to find compromise always, and I'm like a soffit. I question, myself. I debate with myself, so I like to kind of debate with others because I don't even really know what the answers are. Whereas I'm always so amazed.
You'd be a moderate in the U.S. You're a moderate.
I'm a moderate. I am a moderate. I'm moderately good at almost anything I do. I'm a moderate.
Yeah, in Canada, you're veritably left wing.
Oh God!
You know what? I don't think I'm getting my metaphors right.
No,
so please.
I just want to ask, like, what's going on in America, in your liberal state there? In your very democratic state. What are the thoughts? With this Iran thing, with this impeachment, it's almost the next term already. Do you guys actually think Trump should be gone or is gone? Like, where's your collective head?
Well, I certainly wanted him to be gone before, from day one. I mean, when he started, the first time, you remember that Saturday Night Live bit where Michael Che is playing Lester Holt, and he gets I guess it's Alec Baldwin to say, I fired Comey because I thought the whole Russian thing was a fraud. And then Michael Che says as Lester Holt, he goes, "Isn't that it? Didn't we get him? We got him, right? It's over." So I thought that early on that he was obviously obstructing justice from the first day. But it's everything now in this country is what will happen. What will happen is I don't know, but I'm not like these people who think there's no way he's going to get convicted by the Senate, because with Trump, stuff comes out every day. It gets worse and worse every day. And the thing with Iran was, this is obvious. If you enter an agreement on the nuclear deal, and then you're the one country out of all these countries that backs out, we're now in a situation where Iran's word is more trusted than the United States. That's not good.
And it's funny because I actually don't think that, I really don't. I still think that, there's.
No, I'm being. Yeah. What's the word when you're being? I'm being
facetious,
hyperbolic. I'm being hyperbolic.
But there are a lot. Like, listen, there is even there's a sort of big debate going on in Canada right now. There's a sort of a famous Canadian news journalist who sort of insinuated, and you're hearing this a lot now, that it was Trump's fault that this plane was shot down. And to me, I can't piece those together. I know there's cause and effect.
But that's not the way to say it. I think that when people say it that way, that's not what they mean. I think what they mean is, and I think it's totally valid to say, if this whole bunch of crap, if he hadn't started this whole nonsense that he had no reason to do, he didn't even know why he was doing it, then the plane wouldn't have been going off that day. It just wouldn't have happened if Trump hadn't. And this is happening all over the world. He had people killed in the Middle East the day he said that he was going to move the embassy to Jerusalem. And he is causing deaths all the time. So that's different from them saying we're responsible. We're not equally responsible, no. But if you were on that plane and you knew that your family member died because look how many, 60 people from Canada died, and you knew your family members had died because
it's one of our biggest tragedies since I think the 1985 disaster.
Yeah,
so it's
and
a big thing for
because
Canada.
This guy in the country below you has no idea what he's doing. He backed out of a deal. The deal was a good deal, but that's irrelevant. The deal kept nuclear weapons. They had inspectors in there. It's what's really frustrating for me is, like, we've known this so long, for years. He's getting worse and worse and worse every day. So I'm actually right now, to be honest with you, I'm just scared to death.
Are you scared? Like, are you genuinely scared?
Yeah.
Do you think, like, does this affect people's day-to-day lives unless they want it to?
It does with me. I'm in therapy, Todd. I'll tell you, it is with me. I'm in therapy for the first time. I know it's funny, but it's the first time in my life I've been in therapy. 3 years now. At age 59. Are they helping? Are you doing okay? It's been the best. Well, first of all, I'm on Prozac, which has helped tremendously, and it's been amazing. It's been amazing because what you do learn you learn is that at some point you can't control everything, and
exactly.
And
Nor should you be able to.
Right, and I'll say to my wife, here's one of my jokes. I go, my wife and I will watch a Dateline where a wife carves up her husband like a pumpkin just to take the edge off of Trump. You know what I mean? Just to relax a little bit.
Yeah,
just to kick off your shoes. I'll watch a serial killer. I'll watch Eileen Warnerwall, the Eileen Warnerwall tapes, or whatever her name was, the woman serial killer, just to get away.
Just to breathe, just to feel normal again. I'll tell you, it's the big champion in all is your wife. What a wonderful lady she must be.
She once said to me years ago when I was yelling. She goes, when I was yelling at the TV, she goes, "Stop hating everything."
Well, at least you turn that hate into a lot of laughs, and that's what you comedians
Not money,
do.
though, Todd. Not money.
Well,
no,
you gotta know. I mean, listen, you're doing okay.
I'm good.
I mean, you're working. You're working. FU money would be nice. Okay, I'll ask you one last question. Did you like Ricky Gervais at the Golden Globes? Did you like what he did there?
Well, I'm the wrong person to ask because I'm against him as a
I know. That's why I do ask you.
He had a few
I've seen you guys go back and forth for years.
Yeah, he had a few good jokes, but I just thought some of it was. My big objection to him is like. He's acting like he's the edgiest guy in the world. Other people make the jokes and they don't say, "Oh, you couldn't take it." Oh, so it seemed to me like he, unlike Steve Martin or unlike really great hosts, he takes himself out of he pretends like he's against the actual award show in a way, So it's not fun to me because once he did his monologue, it was like you almost didn't want to see him come back. What did you think?
I mean, I like when people call it hypocrisy at always. And I'm not a big Ricky Gervais fan, but I liked what he did during that moment because, he nailed people for their hypocrisies. And that's one thing I try to do is I don't like to be preached to when people aren't, doing something inwards about it anyway. Like, you can't just tell people to do things that help the world and help the environment and do it and not use your resources to go and make a difference. That's where I kind of come into play. So for me, I like that. I don't necessarily know if I'm going to go watch a special now. I've never seen any of his specials. He comes. I don't like British people. That's part of my thing too. So.
Well, that's a good point. Look, your country shouldn't like British people.
Yeah. Well.
I mean, you're officially disconnected now, though, right?
No, there's still Queen. The Queen is still. I'm so embarrassing. I don't know enough about it. I just know that.
I love all that stuff.
Oh God! See, I hate history and I hate the royals.
Well, I like that they're leaving. The whole royals are leaving. Harry's leaving.
They're coming here. They're coming. They're coming here. How? By the way, how good? But must she be? I don't want to feel like I'm saying this in a positive way. For him to give up all that.
First of all, we're all coming to Canada, so this is just the start. Everybody's coming. I'm coming up there. And I'm not saying I'll renounce my citizenship, but I'm willing to change my name.
Well, and she's the Canadian monarch would be the Queen Elizabeth.
Andy Trudeau.
Yeah, and listen, it's not as great up here as people think. We're very passive aggressive.
I know that's true as well. People think there's no prejudice in Canada. There's no hate. There's no friction.
We just hold the door open, and then someone walks by and goes, "Oh, sorry," and then you go, "Oh, thank you, sorry," and then they walk away, and both of you are like under your breath, you're going, "Oh, I hate that piece of," you're just, we just fake
but,
it.
In general, you have a country that is generally nicer people than most countries.
Well, listen, we grew up. I mean, in my case anyway. I grew up around just blacks, Asians, Jews, non-Jews. It didn't matter. We were just all friends. So I think when you grow up in environments from childhood, which is very diverse, it allows you to, obviously you grow up with a lot more acceptance in you. And I think that's what a lot of Canada was because we're built on immigrants. And that's a beautiful part about it. With that being said, people still hate each other.
Right, and all I say is I'm just against all the non-Jews. Now, is that wrong? Am I the bad guy?
Yeah, just 99.99.
I'm one of the chosen people. Deal with it. Did you read the Bible? Hello. Was it Moses? Let me ask you a question. Was it Eddie Condrick giving the Ten Commandments? No, it was Moses. a nice Jewish kid.
Well,
Gave us a take to Badminton.
Just hope that we might not, we might not even be around long enough, all of us, for your comedy show on the 20th, 21st, and 22nd
I
of
know,
February.
the way I'm
Yuck,
talking
yucks.
now, I'm
What's that?
Mr. Subversive.
Hey, well, listen, Andy, I got to run, dude. I love you. Can we talk more just like this? Like,
Yeah,
not
you can,
promote
tell
shows,
me
just have you on
anytime
when you're
want me
bored?
Whenever I'm bored. Yeah, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
It's not like this is really cutting into my. I didn't have to take a Lyft or an Uber here. This is beautiful.
It's what, dude, I'm in my home right now. I'm literally on the couch in my home. I've decided to do the radio show from home moving forward because it's more comfortable.
I'm just asking you, please turn off the FaceTime. I don't need to see it.
I am naked right now. Andy Kindler, everyone. I'm actually
Thanks,
not lying.
Todd. Love you, man.
Okay, cheers. Go and see him at the old show with Andy Kindler. Thank you to JFLNorthwest.com for hooking that up. And that's going on in Vancouver on the 20th, 21st, and 22nd of February in the Yuck Yucks over there. Okay, we're going to take a very, very quick break and then get to Ari Goldkind. Thank you for being here.
The Todd Shapiro Show. We'll be right back. You're listening to The Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, Sirius XM 167. Here's Todd Shapiro.
Okay, do a quick sponsor reading, and then we're going to thank, we're going to thank our sponsor, and then we're going to get to Ari Goldkind, excuse me. Bovedic.com, Boveda. Bovedic.com. These are two-way humidity control packs, keeping your cannabis flower fresh. Lake Wilcox Brewing. Good beer awaits you over at Lake Wilcox Brewing. Thank you to our friends at Permescent.com, where you can make love longer. Go to their website, SCENT, Promescent. Yeah, I got it, I think. Anyway, Permescent.com. Oh, man, that's a great paid-for advertising right there when you don't even know how to spell the website that you're telling people to go to. But they got, like, the condoms, and they got lubricants, and they got vibrators and Vitaflex. And really, listen, it's, they call the sin business, right? The sin business, booze, drugs, sex, all that kind of, that's recession-proof, man. So no matter what state you're in, you're going to want to have some fun. Go to that website, check it out, have some fun. And Drafters.com, they got free daily fantasy sports games over at Drafters.com. And we also really want to thank Halo Labs. We love working with Kieran Sidhu and the entire team there, and they want to remind you to never get high in draft.
Are you ready for a criminal lawyer, legal expert, political commentator, and Todd's friend, Ari Goldkind?
Mr. Ari Goldkind, how are you?
The sin business is not recession-proof. You're actually incorrect on that.
No, I'm not incorrect on that.
You are. Study the porn business.
Sorry?
Study the porn business. It's very interesting.
What, in terms of money? Like not a lot of money in it?
Not anymore. It used to be huge money. Now it's all Pornhub and free stuff and stealing and.
But you're wrong, because what you don't realize is the porn stars are on Pornhub and they're uploading videos and they get the paid for content like a YouTube creator would. So there's actually
I've read about that, and that's a very, very, very small segment of very, very well-known adult film stars. It's not the ordinary, average young girl in it. But that's not the subject of our discussion today. Just when you said sin, I was like, oh, I've read a lot about the porn business. It's very interesting.
Okay. Well, I mean, if
only
you're
read, of course, not watched. Read.
But I mean more like if you want to go and have sex, like you're still going to buy condoms if you have no other money. If you really want to have a good weekend.
Well, hopefully everybody should buy condoms. There you go. Keep the world safe.
Should we? No more kids. Is that the rule, Ari Goldkind? No kids.
That would be a better world if that was true, but that's a different story for a different day.
What are we at? 10 billion now?
8 billion and 6 billion probably could be returned to sender.
Okay, Thanos.
I haven't seen that.
Okay.
I do believe those are comic book movies for children, so I am in the Martin Scorsese camp.
Yeah, you like real storytelling, I know. Although The Irishman was a little too long.
I liked it.
I know. I think we talked about it briefly. I liked it. Okay, well, I'll start off. And I missed you this week. I'm like, I got to talk to Ari more. You're just like the favorite part of my show because I love these real conversations. How frustrating, if frustrating at all, perhaps it isn't, is it for Ari Goldkind to hear reports that Trump is to blame for the airplane being shot down?
Oh, I think I saw some of that today. I think it's treasonous to say that. I'm surprised they're not blaming the Jews and some Israeli conspiracy that somewhere from Israel the rocket was fired in Jerusalem. I mean, that's how far the crazy left goes. I mean, look, all you need to know about this, and there was something today that I saw, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing, so I wanted to make sure it wasn't one of these spin things. Watch Ilhan Omar at a press conference surrounded by her squad and others.
This made me sick, sorry.
Yeah, okay, so why don't you tell people what it is? And that's all you need to know about the left. Ilhan Omar represents everything that is wrong with the United States and the world. Tell people what she actually did, and it was no accident.
Well, I mean, you're talking about the laughter and the smirking and not paying attention while they were talking about veterans and death and stuff.
Yep.
There was a very serious press conference, and while they were discussing troops and American soldiers and war, basically, right?
And lives lost.
And lives lost, exactly.
Lives lost.
You see, it would be like, the only thing I could describe it to would be like me in grade 4 math class, where I'm not paying attention to the teacher being serious, and I'm sitting there in the corner with my buddy smirking about some stupid other stuff, and I got this big smile on my face when we're supposed to be learning about, something that's going to help our future.
But here's what makes it more telling, okay? Because this is the far left. Not the left, the far left. This is what makes it telling. Nobody said to her, as the black congresswoman was speaking very solemnly, very respectfully. She hates Trump too, but she was speaking very solemnly, very respectfully of people who were killed. Nobody looked at Ilhan Omar and said, shut the F up. Nobody said to her, wait a minute, you're going to make fun of Trump sniffing through his press conferences, but you're going to stand here laughing and making it. She is evil personified. Why in the Western world? And people say to me when I talk about, she was elected. Yeah, that's a symbol of exactly what's wrong with America, that in her district, this is exactly what they believe is important. And she is I can't see her without seeing evil. But that laughing while the congresswoman was talking, I thought to myself, this is Trump derangement syndrome. You don't need to like Trump as a president. But the idea that because he kills a terrorist, he's to blame for Iran, ready for this with air quotes, like my fingers up next to my ears, for Iran accidentally shooting down a plane that had Iranians who share that religion and that culture and those beliefs. Trump's to blame for an anti-aircraft missile being fired at Iranians. You can call them Canadians and Brits all you want. They're Iranian nationals who have obtained citizenship or residency, or they are studying in Canada, which in and of itself is an interesting conversation. But the idea that Trump is to blame for a plane being shot out of the sky, this is the ultimate in idiocy. Criticize Trump for what you want, say he may not have a plan, play the 2011 video from his office where he's going after Obama. That's all fair game. But the idea that Trump has blood on his hands because he killed Soleimani and a plane gets shot out of the sky, I mean, look, we need to stop calling the United States of America united, okay? This is a tale of two complete brain hemispheres, and they simply don't meet in the middle. There seems to be no center in our discourse.
No, and they can't find it. We're just talking about being a moderate, and I just think that's
a good word. That's what I mean by center. That's a perfectly good word. Yeah.
But it's unfortunate. It's actually really unfortunate, and because what it is to me now is, and these are the same talks we've had for 4 or 5 years, but it's like how when things are completely irrational, then you have nothing to grasp onto for hope. I really believe that. But we talked about it 3-4 years ago, but I didn't believe the Congress was filled with people who are un-American and anti-American. You have Rashida Tlaib, you have Ilhan Omar. This is the Trojan horse. This is what America is and is becoming. We're not immune to it here at all. But, it's one thing to be absolutely patriotic and democratic and liberal and believe in freedom of women and gay people and
have moderate views of abortion and still be in the Democratic Party versus the Republican. That's a tale as old as time. You have Tlaib and Omar that are as un-American as the day is long. And when people say that about them, Twitter gets all upset and says, oh, they're as loyal to America as the greatest patriot fighting in World War II. Are you out of your freaking brain? Anybody who thinks any serviceman or woman in World War II fought so that Ilhan Omar can do what she does and think what she does, I mean, it's insane. These people, to me, are probably rolling over in their graves. And I'm no military person. I think military force is likely overused. I think these are issues that could be decided at our border and immigration policy. And it's not about shooting everybody and nuclear power and this, that, and the other. But, 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't think you had people heavily in the Democratic Party that are actively rooting against America, or at least what makes America great, to have America look more like places that people come because they want to avoid and leave those places for what America actually is. So, yes, 4 or 5 years ago, we would talk about Obama and Trump and, Mitt Romney and John McCain. But, the fight between John McCain and Obama, wasn't a fight between insanity and sanity. It was about, are you a little bit left or are you a little bit right? And that's a perfectly good thing.
Well, and the Trump derangement syndrome seems to be at an all-new high. And I want to ask you this because I think I know what my thoughts are. I probably even discussed them. But if in the exact same circumstance, okay, everything that happened with sort of the big surprise of that attack, if Obama had done that, how do you think the Obama's camp, the same Ilhan Omar's, et cetera, would have reacted?
Well, you already know
it's a tough
the
hypothetical, but...
No, but you know the answer to the question because it's the same thing with what the Republicans do when they constantly defend Trump, where everything he does is fine. He owns the Republican Party. Remember, the Republican Party is the party that went...
but Hannity went after him. They didn't know.
But hold on. This is the party that went nuts on Obama. Nuts on Obama when he wore a tan suit. Okay? You look at all the things the Republican Party and evangelicals excuse for Trump, all his behavior, his rudeness, his unpresidential ways, they lap that up like lapdogs. It's just partisanship. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Ilhan Omar wouldn't be saying a word. If Obama took out Soleimani the way he felt he should take out bin Laden, you wouldn't be hearing a word about it. But, just saying Ilhan Omar ruins a day. It just ruins a day. Everything about her is not only evil, it is insidious. That is the word that I think is the underused word of the century. It means something to me. It's a word I happen to like, and she is insidious.
What is? I mean, I think I understand the definition of the word, obviously, but in terms of why it's underused, what's your definition of it, and why should it be used more?
An evil that is. I'm not using Webster's dictionary. I'll tell you what it means to me. An evil that people don't see for what it is, because there's a smile there.
I know.
There's a certain way of speaking.
It's condescending.
Manner.
It's so patronizing.
Condescending. And if anybody with Caucasian skin spoke about anything the way she speaks about things, with no knowledge, no intelligence, no nothing, just smarm and condescension, the Caucasian person would be called white-splaining and all of this other stuff and their white privilege. This is a woman who is evil to her core. That's not even getting into her immigration fraud, her marrying her brother, all the personal things, her campaign finance stuff, which CNN won't report, but the Minnesota papers certainly report. But there's an evil there. There is a deep evil. Rashida Tlaib doesn't hide the evil. She's open about the evil. Ilhan Omar has a different way, but the problem is...
She's placating people because people buy into it. It's manipulative.
But this is the constant destruction, in my opinion, of what America is. And if you don't think America is something or Canada is something, then, it's bizarre. And I saw somebody online, with the, Ilhan Omar and all these Democrats. And I forget Ilhan Omar for a second. Just pure, simple Democrats. They're more upset with Trump than Soleimani. Well, you can criticize Trump and talk about the use of force and whether we have a plan and whether there's strategy and whether the fallout is worth it. But this idea that somehow Trump is worse than Soleimani and Democrats in Congress are mourning his loss, that to me is just, you want to talk about Trump being treasonous with the whole Russia thing. I mean, this is treason at the highest order, in my view, where you're not doing something because you're afraid Iran's going to get mad at you. I mean, is America either a superpower or super feckless? But right now, to me, it's almost like the Democrats want America to be super feckless.
They just want power back, and they'll do anything to get it. It's very scary to watch. Actually, it's because it's deceiving. It's deception at its best. And even back to Ilhan Omar, because we only have a few minutes, so we might as well stay with this one topic. Even when she talked about it, and I get it was a tough childhood in the refugee camp and all this stuff, and she saw warring countries and everything. But when she used that she had PTSD just watching Trump, and I'm like, that to me, like, for that to trigger, I get that I'm not taking away from a life that I could never really even imagine.
It had nothing to do with that life. That comment was on its own. It had nothing to do with whatever.
And then she used it as the excuse. And by the way, that was during the exact same speech just a few minutes earlier where she was giggling and laughing when they were talking about actual casualties in war. So I just hope people dig deeper and don't get. And I would say this was a man or a woman, if it was white or black. I don't care. This has nothing to do, at least for me, with the color of one's skin or the background where they're from. This just has to do with, like, how can you not read between the lines? And I would say that about any politician.
Well, I will tell you this. I mean, yes, you got all your caveats in there, but if anybody thinks that what you and I think is going to carry the day, your view and my view is not going to carry the day. Our views are going the way of the dodo bird. You can see that in how social media dominates MSNBC and CNN. You can see demographic changes. Ilhan Omar on the next election will be elected with an even more insanely gigantic vote turnout amongst her people and her voters in Minnesota than last time. So anybody who thinks what Ilhan Omar is doing is going to change or be castigated by Nancy Pelosi or will be moderated, wait 3-4 years from now, she will have an even bigger platform. There will be many and more like her, because that is simply the way America, and quite frankly, Canada, is going. And it's a very, very sad thing if one understands world history.
In about 20 seconds are left, do you ever think she's a potential presidential candidate?
Yeah, I mean, I think you wait, I don't know how old she is now, but you wait 15, 20, 25 years until the demographics of North America are what they will be in 20, 25 years. You can just go to the Pew Research Council. Absolutely. If you think that Bernie Sanders has achieved something today with Bernie Sanders, the white guy, the millionaire, the bookseller, all of this with all that.
I can't stand him.
No, but I can't stand him because he's so anti-Semitic. He's one of the self-hating Jews, and I hate self-hating Jews. But if you don't think in 20 years Ilhan Omar will be an absolute force given demographic changes and the fact that the Democratic Party has sold out to people with her views, same as the Republican Party has sold out to people who lap up Trump's nonsense half the time, that's the world we live in, and she will be 10 times bigger in 15 years than she is today. Maybe 20 times bigger.
Interesting stuff. Ari Goldkind, thank you so much. We can't wait to have you back on Monday. Please have a great weekend. Let's just enjoy our day-to-days, because at the end of it, we're usually not affected by all the stuff going on.
Luckily, I always enjoy my day, but we talk reality with Todd Shapiro.
Well, you're the best at doing it. That's why. Thank you again for the rational conversation. We're going to take a very brief break here. We'll have some news on Canada Talks, and then we'll come on back. Bilal, who's coming back with us?
Benji Nasberg.
Oh, he's a good dude. And then Bilal and I will kind of talk some sports, too. And then we have a replay of Michael Johns from the National Tea Party Movement. Back in a moment.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, Sirius XM 167. Here's Todd Shapiro.
Okay, welcome back to the program. Thank you very much for being here. Friday evening, we are taking you into your weekend. The Todd Shapiro Show every Monday to Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern on Canada Talks, Channel 167. An incredible lineup all the way through right here on the station. So make sure you listen to us. You know what they say, set it and forget it. That's your dial, Channel 167. And Anthony Fury and National Post Radio, Arlene Vine and Jeff Samet. We got Andrew Crystal, of course, before me. We got Allison Dorr. Just after me now, we got Ryan Payton. He does a show, Sports Talk Now, Sports Talk Today. Good stuff, actually. This station, man, we bring it. All different types of personalities here. Some are right-leaning, some are left-leaning, some are moderate, some are sports fans. And I think one thing we all like is just to bring some captivating and engaging radio to you every day. Make you think, make you laugh, make you learn. And make you and inspire you. We're going to do that with our next guest, Benji Nasberg. In the meantime, and he's from Carbone Pizza, Fast Fired Pizza. I also want to thank our sponsors, Daily Fantasy Sports. I want to thank, they got free Daily Fantasy Sports games there at drafters.com. I want to thank Permescent.com. Amazing beer. We got to get it. Beer. Jeez, my mind is all over the place. Permescent.com. It's a lubricant and a product that makes you last longer in the bedroom. It's all this kind of fun stuff. The beer is Lake Wilcox, and I was thinking Lake Wilcox, we got to get in Benji's restaurants. We got to try and figure that out because they're great beer, and we got the Oomph Lager that we've collaborated on. And I think we got everyone covered. Bovadainc.com. We work with Halo Labs. A little reminder, don't get high and drive because of Halo Labs. HaloCanada.com. And I think we got everybody for now. Benji.
Hello, Todd.
Benji Nasberg, how are you, friend?
I am well, Todd. How are you doing, my friend?
Man, you know I'm doing my thing, hanging in. I'm actually doing the show from home a lot lately because I got these two little ones, so we needed. It was just a timing thing. So as I talk to you, I'm looking at my kids. So it's kind of my little baby's making me laugh. She's cute. So I'm great. Well, anytime you're around kids, you feel good, dude. When are you gonna have kids?
Give me a minute. I gotta think about that. Got a few more restaurants to get going first, but it's nice that the kids are looking after you today. That's nice.
Benji, of course, we've had you on the program many times, and you're. I love your story because you went and just did you're a young guy, and you just sort of made stuff happen. You took some risks in life, and you wanted to bring good food to the people of Winnipeg, and now you're expanding across Canada. Tell us about what's going on with the Carbone restaurants, and of course with Fast Fired Pizzas.
I would be happy to. So, as you know, back in 2010, we started a restaurant that was unique to the Canadian marketplace in regards to how we cook. We used coal in our oven in the pizza business, where in other concepts of Canada, everyone was using either wood-fired ovens or gas-fired ovens. And at the time, back in 2010, there was a bunch of restaurants that we had a lot of respect for that were opening in the States, and saw zero styles like that opening in Canada. So we said, hey, let's open up a pizza restaurant. Let's go with the model in regards to how the oven was fueled and cook great pizzas and stick to the high quality products and source locally and push our best foot forward. And what happened was, a few years later, we got to our second store, and by 2016, we had 4 locations open and had a great business running. And we felt that, we needed to do this more, and we needed to bring in more individuals to do the same. And in 2017, we started franchising and felt that as we were focusing on this full service market, there was a huge opportunity in the fast casual space, which was more of the kind of Subway model for pizza, and developed a Fast Fired brand, which is literally called Fast Fired, and that stands for fresh, authentic, sustainable, tailored, streamlined pizza. And and now at this stage in the game, we've done quite a few deals. Like, we have about 20 locations opening next year. We're currently with 3 new ones in construction right now. We have most of the Manitoba market covered, and we're working through Saskatchewan and Ontario right now, and did some deals in Australia, India, Egypt, and Turkey. And it's been really exciting because as we started, we felt that there was a unique opportunity in Canada. And then when we shifted into the fast casual space, we noticed how many opportunities to be first to market in other areas like it was crazy. We just started having conversations with like-minded people and saw opportunities everywhere. So here we are. We're a Winnipeg-based company, but we're opening stores internationally, and all those are turning into the real deal starting this year and early next. So it's been great. Winnipeg, always home. Definitely happy to be in a bit of a warmer climate soon. But that's kind of it.
What is the temperature today in Winnipeg?
What are we at? It's about minus 22.
Oh, jeez, dude, that's terrible. That's just the worst.
It's a nice day.
Yeah, right. Minus 22, beautiful day. So I mean, the expansion. Do you when you sort of studied the franchising opportunities, and that's what you're doing with the Fast Fireds now, and people can inquire, by the way, if you're intrigued on maybe taking control of your own life, and obviously some risk in business and every kind of business. But if you people can buy franchises and get the information from Benji. Where do people go for that?
Yeah, so you go to fastfire.ca and click our contact form or the franchise inquiry form, and it gives you some information. And then if you reach out to us, we'll have somebody, reach back within the next couple hours, because we're actively looking for like-minded people to take on the brand. And, we have the recipe for success. It's just a matter about who the people are that we're working with and where we're going with it. So
brilliant. You talk about a recipe to success. Did you currently study the fast food trends of franchising? Do you look to the Subways, the McDonald's, maybe not McDonald's, maybe a bit big, but some of these smaller shops, do you try to look to find how you can replicate some of what the real big successful ones have done, and then also improve not only just a quality of food and an actual experience, but just sort of an overall feel? Is that kind of the angle here?
We look at everything in regards to the consumer shift to convenience and customization and more delivery friendly businesses. That's kind of where the world's going. So we research everything. For us, it's just about having the best quality product and not and being transparent all the way through, from who we source through to what products we use, and just do what we feel is right. I eat food every day, right? So I want to make sure that what I'm eating is, top quality. So I would want that, to be replicated, and I want that the same for all of our guests as well. And, this day and age, everyone wants to have the ability to eat in any fashion that they see fit, whether it's gluten-free or vegan or keto or paleo or, the list goes on. We have every angle covered from our menu, and we feel that pizza should be enjoyed by everyone, regardless of what their lifestyle choices are, from to what their dietary restrictions may be.
One of the things I often think about, and when I eat sort of these franchise types of foods, and I do it often. I even have McDonald's right now for dinner, to be honest. But you think of consistency. You think of consistency from really one country to the next. You're talking about massive expansion to India and Australia, and I've always thought, how is it that you can, and I mean this, how is it that you can literally have the exact same tasting thing? And so how do you stick, as you're expanding now, how is it that you plan and, having your franchises stick to the very same consistency of perfect pizza?
Again, it's with the people, because we have the systems and we just need to follow them, and have to have everyone on the same page with understanding.
But do you get my point being, do you get the same dough in bulk and shipped? Do you get the same cheese?
Yeah.
It's all sort of sourced out from the same areas?
Yeah, we make everything in-house, and international markets will work with the suppliers that have the same credibility that ours do in the Canadian market. So there's restaurants all over the world, as you know. So we just simply align ourselves with those companies, and then again, though, it comes with the people. We can get the best product, but we can it can go completely wrong if the wrong person's handling it. So we trust and put a lot of time in the vetting process with who we're working with. But in regard to supply, there's no shortage of quality product out there, and we do make everything for the most part in-house. So we just need to get the product, and then we follow, have everyone follow our guidelines and recipes, and then we're good to go. So we're not reinventing the wheel in regards to scaling a restaurant business. We're just focusing on what we feel is right, and we have a great team behind us and an amazing menu and a lot of opportunities. So we just want to keep that the workflow going and keep adding to the family.
You mentioned India, and I like at the how do I want to phrase it? Not to stereotype in any way whatsoever, but I don't necessarily would have sort of thought that pizza might be something that would be popular in India. Is that a new demographic, like a new trend that is happening, or has that always been around?
Pizza's big in India. It's actually a very big market. The toppings and the ingredients will vary for sure from what we see here, and there's a lot more of a vegetarian approach in the markets that we're looking at there. But we have a celebrity chef behind our menu by the name of Pete Evans. He's based out of Australia, and he's traveled the world and done amazing things, won the World's Best Pizza Award, and makes amazing recipes for us. So when it comes to those markets, it's just a simple matter of we have four walls, we have the concept. We just simply need to modify the menu to allow for the consumers there to enjoy as they would in any business. We're at the forefront from execution and quality, and like I said, we have an amazing chef behind it. So the food's going to be top notch no matter where we go, and there's amazing product out there that we can source, and we'll find it, and that's how we're moving forward. Consistency is extremely important, though. It's a very, very valid point. We have to ensure that no matter where you go to one of our concepts, if you go to Fast Fired in India or you go to Fast Fired in Canada, the quality has to be the same. The product may be slightly modified or different, but you're going to know what you're getting.
Pretty awesome stuff. Real quick, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask if you talked to Pete. Is everything okay in the areas he's in Australia? And Pete's a very famous guy, by the way. It's an impressive head chef, massive YouTube star. He's done a ton of television in America. Really cool dude. Has a great story to tell and an amazing chef. Have you talked to him and his family? And do you know how people are? How he's doing over there?
Yeah, I wrote him the other day just to make sure everyone's safe, and it's a terrible situation what's going on there. It shows that change is needed all over the world, and it's unfortunate to see it happen to the magnitude that it is. It's definitely an eye opener. We're in touch. He's safe. He's not impacted directly from it. Neither is the team that we work with there. But Australia is a great place. I know they'll fight through it. They're great people. It's very unfortunate what they're dealing with, and we obviously wish that upon no one, but it does bring us together, and it's nice to see. We feel it's a community mindset. Like even with them where they are, we feel directly impacted and feel like they're essentially our neighbor. And we hope for the best, and we're keeping our fingers crossed.
Canadians and Australians have this unique connection. They're like-minded. They're fun. They're rational. They're hardworking, and there's a lot of sort of respect. Anytime we've had a lot of friends still do from Australia, and there's a lot of Aussies in Canada. And what is going on there, I think, isn't even talked about enough. It's just so sad now. They're saying over 1 billion animals died, and it could change the ecosystem forever over there. Like, it's just really, really scary stuff. So yeah, our hearts and thoughts and prayers, and any awareness that anyone can do. If there's any help, any donations, there's a ton of different links now. Go and definitely help out. Well, Benji, I guess my last question for you on sort of the business level. I know that one of the things we talked about is that you're taking this company public as well. That's in the process. Are there any company updates there? And when can people? Everyone I talk to, I always talk to them about stocks and shares, and looking forward to different companies on the market. Obviously, do due diligence. I can never give financial advice or anything, but I think you must be excited by this. Is there sort of any updates on when you guys might be listed?
Yeah, I mean we've pushed through everything that we could on our end, and we're just in the period of waiting for the green light. We should be in a position to be publicly traded early February. So it's we've worked on that deal for about a year. We saw a lot of value in being able to go through that process and be able to raise capital and be exposed to the public markets for an overall marketing experience that gives our customer base and our partners the ability to be a part of, our success from the macro level, along with this, they even support a store from being a regular customer or being one of our franchise partners or licensed partners. The public side is definitely a great mechanism for us to, entertain, and we've had a really good experience so far, and we feel that we checked off everything off the list. 3 to 4 weeks is reasonable, but I'm always told not to give a hard date because it's not really within our control at this stage. We've provided all necessary information, and we're keeping our fingers crossed. We should be good to go in about 3 to 4 weeks, though.
Wow, pretty exciting! Yeah, really exciting stuff for you and the team over at Fast Fired Pizza. Carbone, what will be if you ever get listed? When you get listed, I guess. Do you have a ticker symbol yet? That's always a fun thing to pick out.
No, not yet. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be our corporate, our parent company name is Carbone Restaurant Group, so we're going to try to play something of that nature. But you will be the first to know, my friend. We will have to have
exciting,
celebration.
Oh, listen, I'm looking forward for you and your team, and one of your early investors, of course, and now sort of an ambassador to the chain is Kelly Olynyk, who plays professional basketball for the Heat. So that's really cool stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing to have Kelly involved. He's an absolute star. We have, in line with that, we have even Andrew Harris. He's a CFL All-Star. Just took the Bombers through the whole. We've just been celebrating for the past 2 months in Winnipeg with the Grey Cup.
There's nothing else to do except eat great pizza and celebrate one win, right? Hey, Benji, I got to run, but stay. Oh yeah, what's his name again? Sorry.
With Andrew Harris?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
we got to get him on air one day.
He's one of our investors as well.
Awesome, dude. Let's get him on air. We appreciate the updates, and I look forward to picking your brain more moving forward regarding business and helping inspire the youth to go and live their passions, live their dreams. You look at this team you put together in the last couple of years. Between Pete Evans, Kelly Olynyk, guys around you behind the scenes who I know some of them as well. Myself, that's a big deal part of this team, and I love it, dude. I can't wait to get high and eat some of your pizza when you get to Toronto.
I appreciate it. Either way you eat it, you'll love it. I know you will.
I know, dude. That meat crust pizza, I can't wait. You get that in Toronto. I say, I might buy a franchise. Come to think of it, I need that in my house. I need it next door to where I live. Thanks, Benji.
Grossing store.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much, my man.
Take care.
Okay, cheers. Fastfired.ca for more information. If you're looking to franchise, that's a good opportunity to do so. Okay, we're going to take a 2-second break, and then we're coming back with Michael John's interesting interview from one of the founding members of the National Tea Party movement. Thank you again for being here, and thanks to all our sponsors on Canada Talks, Channel 167, Sirius XM.
Stick around. The Todd Shapiro Show will be right back. Welcome back to the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, Sirius XM 167.
Burn it down!
Here's Todd Shapiro.
Yeah, you know who I am. 20 plus years in Canadian media. And thank you very much, by the way, to all our great sponsors, our good friends over at bovedink.com, BOVEDA, two-way humidity control packs, keeping the cannabis fresh. Thank you to Lake Wilcox Brewing. Good beer awaits you over at Lake Wilcox Brewing. How about our friends over at drafters.com? You can play free daily fantasy sports games. Also want to thank everyone over at Halo Labs, reminding you to never get high and drive. Halo Labs making a lot of big waves. And who else we got here? I think I nailed everybody. Is that everybody? I got everybody.
Knowledgeable Cat joining us, making some time for us, which we appreciate. Please welcome back to the program one of the founder of the National Tea Party movement. And he was a former White House speechwriter. Michael Johns. Hi, Michael.
Hey, Todd. Happy New Year to you.
I appreciate that. What do you think? What's the day? What's the day we stop saying Happy New Year? I'm asking all my guests this.
We're getting close. I often said the same thing about when does, have a great day turn into have a great night? It's sort of in the 3 p.m., 4 p.m. range,
I actually never thought about that. Yeah. That's great. And then when you're having a great night, it's tough to say have a good day tomorrow because you know how you'll be feeling.
All right. Well, there's always a see you tomorrow, whatever.
Well put. So how are things on your end, just in terms of the Tea Party, the National Tea Party? I mean, not much news coming out of your camp.
Well, a lot happening, of course, and the movement itself is going to be an incredible force again in the 2020 election cycle, both in its support for the president and for its support for those adhering to our principles in a broad range of congressional and U.S. Senate races across the country. And also the movement, we really think about it. I mean, we started out as a complete opposition force. I mean, with the, Obama presidency and both houses of Congress in the hands of Democrats, that's changed a bit. And so, we've taken on, some governance responsibilities. We have an operating functional political caucus in the House of Representatives, a good number of representatives from Tea Party organization, including even our Secretary of State, have graduated on to working in this administration. So, things evolve.
The Republican Party side of things, a big approval rating for Trump and everything that's going on. Has anything changed since the takedown on what happened in Iran?
Well, I think almost predictably, it was the reaction in the United States has been split. Those who view Trump favorably have been almost universally supportive of the measure. And sadly, those on the other side who I think would have championed the same initiative if it had been done by Barack Obama or any other Democrat have been critical, critical of the lack of consultation with Congress and, always raising a question, well, what's going to happen now? What's the exit game? And anyone who's worked in foreign policy knows that, it'd be nice if you could sort of lay this thing out like a series of steps in putting together IKEA furniture or something, but it's much more complicated than that. And there aren't always certainties in it. It's okay to acknowledge that. In this case, I think, the logical thing is that we had a guy who was running a designated terrorist organization affiliated with the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, Iran, who was in Iraq in violation of UN sanctions. That's never mentioned. He had no legal right to even be out of the country, and was there for the purpose of plotting additional attacks on U.S. facilities and U.S. personnel after having been involved in the attack on our embassy. And, the question then becomes, well, do you want to let him sort of go ahead and plan and initiate all those things, or you want to take some measures to terminate his functional role in that? And I think the latter is a no-brainer. And the world and the United States are a tad bit safer, at least, with his removal from this planet. But the threat of Iran obviously continues. It would have continued with or without this measure.
Well, I think that's an interesting statement you just made, which would it continue? You hear about the nuclear program that was supposed to be put on hold. Has it been put on hold? Have they now completely gone against what they were still in agreement with other parts of the world? And, we all know that Trump pulled out of the nuclear Iran deal. But do you think that they would have proceeded, and when I say they, Iran really is a country and some of their leaders supporting terrorist organizations, which has been proven, in kind of targeting the U.S. and sort of decimating perhaps anyone that they saw as a potential enemy?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it. If you look, over the last series of years, all the way back to the Iran agreement, Iran's actions around the world, Iran's actions with its nuclear development program, and Iraq's rhetoric have been incrementally more aggressive and more assertive in countering and fighting the U.S. and its allies around the world. So this idea that we were going to sign this agreement and all of a sudden it was going to usher in some new era of peace and tranquility with Iran was delusionary. And the reality is we empowered Iran with a great amount of financial resources, billions of dollars, and we put into place an agreement that had very limited ability to verify what they actually were doing. We couldn't even visit military sites where where this program was logically being conducted. We had to give them, I think it was 28 advanced days of notice before we could even inspect any location. And throughout it, they all continued to brag about their ability to continue to acquire centrifuges and continue to move forward in their uranium enrichment programs at higher and higher levels. So, and then I guess most recently, as we went through the last several months, they said, hey, we're going to start to violate a few components of this, not all of it. And the EU and the United States have looked at it very differently, obviously. I think now the question is, the EU has held on to this agreement and still been a part of it, because they thought Iran was, it was actually constraining their nuclear development program. Now that they've made it clear that they're going to do what I think they've been doing all along anyway, the EU really should be joining the United States in imposing sanctions against Iran, because those financial resources are being used to fund this vast terrorist empire that they're still running.
Michael Johns is with us, one of the co-founders of the National Tea Party and the movement. The attack, I guess, the strike, some say was a surprise and sort of came out of nowhere. How much planning would go into something like that? How much tracking would there be? And really, was this a surprise, or are people sort of in the know and on the inside of the intel? Would this have been something planned for quite some time?
Well, I think it was kind of like two levels to that. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps that Soleimani was running for decades was designated by the U.S. as a terrorist organization several months back. And I think when that designation was made and when that announcement was made, on a conceptual level, we started to view them more as a traditional terrorist organization as opposed to a conventional military force. For instance, we would not logically assassinate or kill a foreign military leader, even from a hostile foreign government. That's an act of war. This was sort of carved out as part of the post 9/11 war on terrorism, and no one at the time questioned the IRGC was involved in vast amounts of terrorism, or that was a good measure. I think that kind of paved the ground for this conceptually. But then, in reality, his arrival in Baghdad airport, I don't really believe that was known through our intelligence circles until a day or two beforehand, and I think it was always on the table as a logical, responsive act to what Iran's been doing, and then the opportunity to do it emerged. He had arrived from Syria, where he'd been engaged in planning additional attacks in Syria, and then arrived in Baghdad, where he was planning to implement what he called, a big operation against U.S. personnel, not a small attack on part of the embassy or killing one or two Americans, but a really vast undertaking. And I think at that point the president made the right decision.
I've been hearing reading stuff on Twitter, and like you said, I agree with you. I think that if Obama had done something similar to this, people would be celebrating it, and just because it was Trump who sort of ordered the hit, it wasn't by half your country, which seems to be the case in everything that's being done these days. Do you, Michael Johns, agree or disagree though with some of those who are saying this was actually a war crime and that Trump illegally assassinated the individuals who got killed in the strike?
No, this is entirely within the parameters of the president's constitutional authorities as commander in chief, and it's further supported by legislation that was passed after 9/11, which authorized the president to act swiftly in cases exactly like this. And, Obama, for instance, launched hundreds, if not thousands, of drone strikes. He I think, launched the first one 3 days into his presidency, killed thousands, including innocents, through that drone program. It's always, I think, really by people on both sides, been viewed as kind of a necessary evil. I don't think anyone looks at it without, trying to view it critically and continue to question it. But in this particular geopolitical environment, it's absolutely permissive legislatively. And some would argue, even without that legislation, that constitutional authority exists because it's not technically a declaration of war classically defined. It's a single military act.
Michael Johns, do you think that there is this sort of imminent outcome of World War III, which people seem to be exaggerating on as well in the social medias and the news and things like this?
Yeah, I mean, I described this when it first happened as a de-escalating event because I know that's counterintuitive to many because you say, well, of course, Iran's going to respond to this, and Iran will attempt to respond to this. There's no doubt about it. But you've removed from the battlefield one of the most dangerous people in the world. That implicitly kind of makes the world a little bit safer. If Iran had been completely in adherence with, international law and not engaged in all these hostilities, not support for Hezbollah and Hamas and what they're doing in Yemen and Lebanon and their continued attacks on Israel, acts in Europe, all over the world, Venezuela, you would say, well, yeah, this is like unprovoked and this is an escalating event. But when you've already got an escalated situation and you remove their top general from the battlefield, in a sense, you've kind of diminished their military capabilities, at least incrementally. But I don't think anyone's under any illusions. I mean, we have a state of great hostility with this country. The president's made it clear. I think it's important to continue to reiterate this because it's very different than what existed, say, during the George W. Bush administration, that we do not seek war with Iran and we do not seek regime change with Iran. I mean, we're not trying to overthrow their government. We're simply trying to defend American interests and American allies throughout that region and throughout the world. And that, unfortunately, in this climate with their aggression has necessitated some proactive and assertive steps.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that the idea of war is silly. Does Iran have the capabilities to do some significant revenge, though?
There's no doubt. I mean, it has a very powerful standing army and military. It has advanced technical capabilities. It's been involved in vast cyber attacks, including very recently. It's attacked commercial ships in the Gulf region and in the Strait of Hormuz, which has been complicating for international commerce. It's got a strong Navy. It's got this developing nuclear weapons program that some people say is a lot further along than we appreciate. So, yeah, it's a regional power capable of inflicting some serious harm. It's also surrounded by a very strong presence of the United States and its allies around the world in the region. It has very few friends in the Middle East because of what it's been doing, and it's got outright hostilities with the other regional power there, Saudi Arabia. That's long-standing, but is also intensified. So there's a lot of constraining force around it. And I think, particularly important, Russia and China, who continue to kind of have, transactional relationships with the government of Iran, weren't particularly rhetorically critical of what we did, which I think suggests that they're not inclined either to want to see this situation escalate significantly.
The other thing that we heard in the news was the fact that, and I don't even know how to say his name, Soleimani. I've never known how to say it.
Soleimani,
yeah. That he was effectively planning massive attacks against the U.S. and personnel in Iraq and throughout the Middle East. Do we know if that's actually true, or is that just something that's said to kind of mitigate the damages of actually following through with this strike and the killing of him?
Well, it's been the stated position of the U.S. government, and the stated position even today in some degree of detail from Secretary Pompeo, our Secretary of State. That was the purported finding of the intelligence community. And the way I worded this when it immediately happened, because I was one of the first critical talking points, is, well, how do we know he wasn't there doing something that was benign? And the logical answer is he doesn't do things that are benign. If they were there as some active diplomatic relationship or engagement, they would have sent their foreign minister or someone else within their government structure. This man's singular purpose was to inflict military actions and terrorist activities on Iran's perceived enemies. And that's almost certainly what he was doing in Iraq, and he was clearly very much involved and behind the attack on the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad that preceded his assassination.
And regarding
a lot worse when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, and fair enough, it definitely could have been a lot worse. I mean, a lot of hypotheticals within all of this, though. Some say that maybe this is just a distraction from this impeachment process. And I mean, again, you'll get every theory out of the book coming when stuff like this happens, and from conspiracy theories to actual theories. But I mean, is this a distraction? And whether, with that being said, is there any legs to this impeachment process?
Well, I don't think that there is much political calculation in what the president did here. I think he, in fact, just almost the opposite. I think the concern is that he was going to be criticized for doing too little on Iran. They, as you may recall, downed a $200 million drone of ours earlier in the fall, and the president assessed some options. Then he was told that they could lose up to 150 innocent civilians, and he decided that it wasn't worth that. And Iran mocked the United States for not acting, for not responding. I think the position of the U.S., especially after the lengthy ongoing conflict of Iraq, is one of skepticism toward these prolonged military engagements in that region. So he ran in 2016 saying basically he was going to assertively defend U.S. interests. He was going to kill the bad guys, ISIS, Al-Qaeda and other terrorist leaders throughout the region. And he was going to attempt to bring U.S. personnel home and let these countries begin to figure out more on their own how they're going to defend themselves and enhance their way of life, which really we've kind of alleviated their obligation and their responsibility to do that with the vast, trillions of dollars that we poured into the region and our presence there. It's kind of taken the pressure off of them to confront some of the realities that they actually, very much need to be addressing at this point. And if you look at what's happened, I mean, there's been some points where he's had, including very recently with a deployment of a few thousand American troops to sort of contradict that promise. But Afghanistan troops have been withdrawn. Iraq troops have been withdrawn. Syria, our engagement is diminishing. The big picture trend in the U.S. is toward a diminished military presence in the region, not an enhanced one, and that's kind of what the American people voted for. It's a real balancing act, because I think the typical American voter does not want to see U.S. interests threatened in the region, but nor do they want to have this ongoing cost of human life and treasure that's been in place since 2003, really now.
Yeah, and listen, one of the things that I often talk to people about, and I think I've told you this last time we spoke, I'm pretty much party agnostic. I can't even vote in the United States, but I just sort of follow us from abroad and being a media member, but not a media member with an agenda, just a media member trying to inquisitive on all sides and try to find compromise within it, is that despite what you think of Donald Trump as the president of America, the United States of America, there has to be some respect, whether you agree or disagree with his strategies and with his ideas, is the fact that he is being true to a lot of the stuff he ran on. And then I posed the question to those, especially on the left and real left types, and say, what would you rather, a leader that says things that you disagree with but follows through, or a leader that says things that he's going to do for you to vote them in office but then doesn't follow through with them? And they kind of get stumped.
Yeah, I mean, the very acts that that the progressive left in the U.S. supported during the Obama administration, they've opposed during the Trump administration. And if you contrast the two administrations, I don't think Obama was a big fan of our military engagement in the region either, but he ultimately kind of bought into sustaining the surge in Iraq. We sustained a great number of casualties in Iraq during his presidency. We functioned very aggressively. I mentioned these thousands of drone attacks, et cetera. There was never any criticism. No one was saying, "Hey, you got to end all this. You got to or what's the end game?" This president, conversely, has actually taken proactive steps to diminish our engagement in the region. He thinks there's an opening even for diplomacy with Iran. He said that today, in fact, again, that he believes that would be the best outcome, would be for talks. Not have to be some prerequisites met for that. It can't just be talks for talk's sake, but that would be the logical outcome. And unfortunately, we're in an election year and a hyper-partisan era, as I know you and I talked about last time. It's just sadly like a lot of common sense and logic just gets thrown away, and the thought process, particularly in Congress, is how can we score political points with this situation or that situation, and that really starts to border on a dysfunctional governmental system. And it's probably the biggest challenge that I think we have in this country right now, is to figure out how we restore some sort of sense of consensus building and constructive engagement, where we don't have to constantly be tearing our, the other political party apart, and can be doing some things together that the American people want to see done.
Michael is one of the co-founders of the National Tea Party movement, and again, being a former White House speechwriter. Do you experience, away from, say, media, away from social media, away from online activity, that even if there are people who disagree with you and really disagree with you in person or over conversations, that there can be healthy debates at least? Like, do you have more of that than maybe people would assume that someone who's just being the co-founder of the National Tea Party movement would have? I mean, do you have more of these rational conversations?
Yeah, I wish I could say that I do. When I worked, but I don't. When I worked in Washington, like late 80s and 90s, it was also a partisan environment. But, I can remember I was a foreign policy analyst at the Heritage Foundation, one of the most influential think tanks in the world. And it's decidedly conservative. But I really consciously made an effort to bring over Democratic congressional staff to our meetings, to our working groups, to our lectures and seminars. And the participation was never like completely at the level that I really would have liked to have seen, but there was participation. It wasn't like there was some broad memo across town saying you can't work with these guys. Now we've almost gotten to the point where, when Democrats are engaged in speaking with us or having dialogue with us or cooperating with us or supporting any policy idea, no matter how common sense it might be, that there's this reaction from the far left. And if you ask and say, well, why has the political culture changed in the country? I think the primary reason it's changed is the Democratic Party itself has changed dramatically. It's become a considerably further left political party than it was in the late 20th century, when it was modestly progressive, but it was it was solid on national security issues. It saw some constraint in federal spending and in taxation and in government engagement in our economy. It was more liberal on those issues than Republicans were, but there were limitations to it. It's now seemingly like unlimited, and we have literally almost a socialist wing within the Democratic Party in Congress that really is probably arguably the most influential movement in the majority party in the House right now.
What are your thoughts of, and feel free to share them honestly, of Ilhan Omar?
I mean, they're universally negative. I think that she has arrived with just a lot of preconceived ideas that happen to be factually inaccurate about the way the world works, about how Republicans and conservatives think and act. I think she's hugely naive regarding the Islamic threat and the magnitude of it in the world. There's been denial about those things. I don't think she's particularly well studied on them, even though she historically comes from that region. And I think she's very much, torched the village to accomplish her agenda. And if that doesn't work, then, oh, well, I think that's kind of her approach. And that's not one that typically, an elected member of Congress historically would have taken, even if they had significant partisan issues with the other side.
Michael Johns is with us. I guess my last question, and I love the fact that you give us this much time, and I know how busy you are, and I would appreciate you even coming on again. At the end of this all, moving forward from Iran now and other politicians and party affiliations and all this kind of stuff, will Donald Trump be impeached?
No, he's not going to be removed from office. The articles of impeachment, of course, passed the House, and one of the best signs of the fact of how uncertain Democrats are about this is the fact that the articles of impeachment themselves, which were passed with great urgency, like they had to be done right now, and the president was a threat and had to be removed, still haven't been forwarded to the Senate.
And that's unprecedented from what I understand, right? Normally they're brought to the Senate right away. Is that not correct?
Yeah, and so why wouldn't you send them to the Senate? Well, one of the reasons you wouldn't send them to the Senate is that this is political gamesmanship. This is about letting this dark cloud just sort of hover over the presidency, knowing that almost certainly the Senate is not going to find a basis for the removal of the charges. And the underlying allegations themselves are completely baseless. We didn't withhold military aid from Ukraine. President Zelensky in Ukraine acknowledged that there was no quid pro quo. Quid pro quos historically have existed in foreign aid. They're not unconstitutional acts necessarily. And the aid was released, and the investigation into Hunter Biden, who purportedly has received millions of dollars from this petroleum company in Ukraine that was under criminal investigation, was never investigated by Ukraine. So what we ostensibly asked for was never taken up by them. The military aid was released. And what you really had at the end of the day was the president of the United States who was talking to the president of Ukraine and said, we'd appreciate if you would cooperate with our Department of Justice on some issues of concern. And they hung the phone up agreeing that they would cooperate on them. This is the one thing I'll say that I think is challenging to President Trump is he continues. Well, he has a completely contradictory view of the world from previous administrations, including Republican ones. His administration is still largely staffed by those same people. And, when you look at how this whole thing started, basically there you had a staffer on the call who saw an opportunity to, share that information with Congress and get this whole ball rolling, knowing in this environment that it would roll pretty quickly. And that person, of course, never even testified. When you go through the testimony and look at who actually did testify, there was not one factual witness who really was. You had people who speculated that they heard or thought something was going on, but were not on the call. And then you had people on the call that said, look, there was no quid pro quo. People who were close to it were very clear about it. So it's not going to go anywhere in the Senate. I don't think it's hurt the president politically at all. fact, his approval rates incrementally gone up a few points, but the country's still deeply divided on this guy. And if you ask your typical American voter, hey, should Trump be impeached? It almost has nothing to do with Ukraine. It's like if they didn't like him before, they're probably inclined to say, yeah, he should be. And
they were saying that before without even knowing a reason for it.
I listen. Impeachment before he took office. I mean, literally on the Annulments Act and other issues that people were raising at that time. That was the immediate reaction upon his election. Is now, how can we impeach him?
And without me, Michael Johns, towing the line here, or trying to choose one side over the other, or just trying to be an observer from it, I always try to, again, explain to people, you simplify this kind of stuff, that if you were being accused of something or being ousted, which really what an impeachment is, from any organization or from even your school, what's it called, administration, you would like to think that it would be done fairly with proof, and whether you don't forget, lose your emotions here. Look at the facts, and it really is amazing to me in politics in general, and beyond politics. It could be Ricky Gervais in hosting the Golden Globes, which personally I thought he nailed it. Then people let their emotions get involved and get upset or angry with the individual. And I always say, why are you letting your look at the facts of the situation? Are the facts right? What Ricky Gervais said, you could prove that the facts were pretty much right. Some of it were jokes, but he was actually telling the truth, which became humor and then disputed humor. And with Trump, a lot of it is him running on things and people just not liking him. And I think it's because he's an scapegoat to most people's emotions who don't want to deal with their own sort of ways of hypocrisy and not actually helping this world or this country or your country become a better place. And I just want people to remember to kind of look within before having a scapegoat or blame others. And that's the message I'm trying to get across. Whether you like them or don't like them or agree or don't agree, why don't you start within, and maybe that's how we can become that better place. Anyway, my little anecdote on this and your sort of information, I think, is always good because you shared from your point of view, and I respect that. And Michael Johns, I really hope to have you back.
All right, Ty, good talking to you. Have a great New Year.
Cheers, man. Yep. Okay, we're back to that again. Cheers. An amazing program today. Please, if you missed any of it, go to On Demand on SiriusXM's app, a great app where you can get all the different shows here on Canada Talks, in any station, really, here on Sirius. A great platform. We love you all. Thank you for listening to us. Please join us every single Monday to Friday, 4 to 6 p.m.
The Todd Shapiro Show is on demand. Listen on your time with the SiriusXM app. Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.